This is Mile High.
Do I want to tell the story or do I want to show the message?
You've got a lot of work to do between Mile High.
The time has come where we can know
we have a responsibility, an ethical and moral responsibility.
We have to do it better in order to move people along.
Up, down, inside out.
If you get your mind right,
it is not. It is a receiver of thought. Because love is my first technique.
it's now time for the show.
Welcome to the Mile High podcast. This is your host, Dr. Daniel Knowles, coming to you at an altitude of 5,280 feet. We look forward to seeing you at Mile High in 2020, raising the bar, and it's Mile High 2020 Vision, August 20th to 23rd. And we are discussing with Tick with a guest from across the pond who I always love getting to connect with, none other than Dr. Thomas Waller. Thank you for joining us today so we can talk about congruency in practice. Welcome to the podcast.
Daniel, thank you very much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be on your podcast. I think it does so much for the profession, and it's just an honor to be able to share with you and your audience.
Well, and I'm grateful for what you're doing for the profession across the pond, right? So, hey, we're all in this together to help chiropractors be better chiropractors. And today, talking about practice, you're in practice, I'm in practice, congruency in practice, and what that means. Because, you know, we see so much taught in chiropractic by different schools. We see so much done in chiropractic. And at Mile High, we like keeping the main thing, for sure. First of all, let's have people get to know you. How did you find your way to being a chiropractor?
That is a great question. I don't have the story maybe that everybody else has. I think chiropractic pulled me out when I was a chiropractor, I suppose. So obviously I saw chiropractic as a child. It helped a little bit with asthma, but I didn't put two and two together at the time. I was, head set on a career in the military, but ended up going to chiropractic school. I was kind of the puppet on the string. I was a student union president while I was at the college, towing the mechanistic line. But then I suppose my first year in practice, I became a little bit bored and disillusioned with that side of things, which then opened up my eyes to chiropractic, which is where I find myself today, and doing everything I can to support and grow our profession as much as possible.
So when you think, and I actually just taught a program this weekend, and at the program one of the things I said was that we want class, we want coherence, we want congruence, and we also want to do that compliantly. Congruence is a big word, right? So what is congruence in practice in your mind?
I think congruence in practice is really what enables us to really enjoy and be successful in our profession and what we do. I see so many people, and there are so many great coaches out there, and there are so many great programs. But unfortunately, you see a lot of students who are quite susceptible jump into these and try and follow the herd or do what somebody else says, and it's not necessarily who they actually are. And it's not to say that these programs are wrong, but I do believe people should first work on who they are and then take on these other aspects of how to work. So, you can take it right from someone who's been in practice for many years, has had perceived success from what people would see from the outside, but they're just very unhappy on the inside and it's not quite working as thought it would. Or you can take, we're seeing loads of cases here in the UK where you've got new graduates coming out and they're doing as they're told as such, like they were. I suppose it's a fault of the university not enabling them to make their own decisions. They're now still just doing what they're told and maybe saying something that's not congruent to them, and then that breeds animosity with the patient and a case down the line. So I learned the hard way with congruency, and I'm happy to share that story, but it's something that's really sparked my fire to try and help people just not get into that rut.
Yes. And I think there's a place of being congruent with yourself, because that may be different for different people, right? And then there's also congruent with chiropractic and with its foundational principles. I just saw an advertisement. I did a post about it. I was kind of irritated, which was for a consulting firm. We don't need to say who. I guess if you want to go into Mile High group, you'll see it. And it had a post and an ad about the future of chiropractic, and a person with a stethoscope and a white jacket and putting a lozenge, a throat swab in a person's mouth, and it's the future of chiropractic, and just got me all fired up. So there may be people that's congruent with,
Yeah.
And then there's also, well, is that actually congruent with chiropractic?
That's absolutely true. And if you're going to be a chiropractor, do chiropractic. If you don't want to do chiropractic, get out the profession. It's like that, to me, that's black and white.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you don't want to do chiropractic, because you should do you.
Right.
And I just see so much potential in so many chiropractors, and they're busting to jump up to that next level or grow and progress. And I don't think what they see on the inside is actually what they're desperate to do, is be themselves and practice. So, do you mind if I share how I came about this?
No, please do.
That's what happened. So several years ago, I set up, practice, and perceived by everybody else to be super successful, super busy, speaking around the country, speaking internationally, leading well-being for the police force. So crazy success from what people would perceive from the outside. But I, on the inside, was working really hard in a way that wasn't congruent with who I am. I was really trying to prove a point to somebody. And the people that I work with, everybody's the same. I was trying to prove a point to my father that I could achieve something. But what happened was, I firmly believe the universe will stop you in your tracks if you're not being congruent. So I unfortunately started to bleed every time I was going to the bathroom. And as typical bloke, just completely ignored the whole thing. Kept my head down, kept pushing forward. Long story short, ended up having pre-cancer in the bowel. And it was my body's way of saying, you know what, you are not being who you are. So we talked about being congruent with chiropractic, was congruent with chiropractic, and took the chiropractic approach to getting my body set and served better. And did some introspection into who I am, managed to clear through that problem in a chiropractic way, to the point where I now have a practice that's even busier, even more successful, even more opportunities, even more speaking and traveling, but in a congruent way that maintains my health. And what I see so much around me is people who are pushing, trying to achieve something. And then if you ask them, well, why are you trying to achieve that goal, that number? Why are you trying to see that so many people a week? Why are you trying to create a podcast? Why are you trying to speak around the world? And they don't actually know the answer. They're just doing it because maybe they're trying to prove a point, or it would look good to somebody else. So I have a real burning desire and purpose to stop people doing that, stop people going as far as I went to become sick. But the beautiful thing, if you go through that, is that you'll create massive success in your practice. To me, success is fulfillment. Doing it the way that you want to do it on your terms.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, one of the things that Anthony Robbins makes a big point of is that the two sides to business mastery, the art of achievement and the art of fulfillment. And that there's super, like what you just described, super high achievers did big things and they're in so much pain. And they're not realizing that they're not fulfilled, or defining what exactly you just said is important. So in the chiropractic part, in the chiropractic portion, how do we help ourselves? How do you like to help other chiropractors, help them be authentic to chiropractic?
I think that's brilliant, and it comes back to asking the why questions. Why are you doing chiropractic in the first place? And then people will say, well, to help people. And then maybe you say, well, who's the only person who can actually get somebody better? And they will say, well, it's themselves. And I think that's the first dichotomy that we have, because people who are trying to prove a point are trying to be the hero and help people and get people better. But essentially, that's, to me, and that is not chiropractic. Chiropractic is releasing the potential for that person to get well themselves. So I would be getting to look into that kind of thing, those kind of questions. It's difficult because, especially when you're talking about younger, people fresh out of college, especially over here in the UK, there is no understanding of what chiropractic is. None at all. I had a conversation with one of my clients this morning, and didn't even know what the 3 T's were having come out of college. And you just think there's such a misunderstanding. So I think the way we need to learn is I'm a big fan of reading. We have to read. We have to spend time to learn and understand that, like, go back to Tony Robbins' quotes. The definition of fulfillment is growth. So continuously growing, continuously learning will help us do that. But also understanding that we're not trying to reach a destination. You look at how many books BJ wrote. He never got there. He was always learning, growing, and developing. And to think that we'll get there and suddenly we'll know it all, I think is wrong. I think we have to understand that we're on a path, we're on a journey where we're continuously learning, continuously growing throughout the whole process of our career. And I'm sure you've seen that as you've grown and developed. And the same is true for me.
Yep. Yeah. And you bring up something very important, which is education and students and the future of chiropractic, because, I think we've got a long number of years ahead of us, but there's a point where we're not going to be there, right? Mm-hmm. And that's true of, we're sad to see other greats, Reggie, Sid, etc., go, and they contributed to what they did, and you can go on the list, right? And the future comes to students, and all around the world, UK is no different than anywhere else. There's less and less chiropractic taught in the educational process. So what do you see with that? I can say what I see with students that I work with in the US. What do you see? Because I know you have a lot of connection to students in the UK.
Yeah, it's really tough. It's really tough. Even from the college that is perceived as being the best philosophically, there's still a complete lack of understanding in terms of what chiropractic is. I see students who have been taught to an academic level to think that they know it all,
right?
But then have a real difficulty applying that knowledge and actually doing chiropractic. I see huge potential for the students. I maintain the fact that there is huge potential, because just to get yourself through those hard 4 or 5 years as it is over here, you've got to have something about you. And there is such great groups just outside of college where students can fall into, learn, grow, and develop. So I see massive potential, but I see a very, very difficult playing field, and it's not going to get any easier. We're hoping that Ross gets his college off the ground as soon as possible. That will be a big winner. We do have, good links over in Barcelona, so students can travel over and work there. My wife is studying at McTimoney. She's in a final year there. But again, these students have to be looking for extracurricular learning, which is where something like the Mile High podcast is fantastic, as well as just getting the certificate of leave.
Mm-hmm. What's that certificate of? Tell me about that. What is that?
The certificate of leave. They're basically just like learning to drive. They're just getting the test, they're learning to drive, and then they're going to really learn to drive. Right. But again, it's asking questions. It's asking questions. And it comes back to them coming out of college and wanting to do chiropractic their way. There's a great quote that says, "Many a flower has bloomed unceasingly and wasted its breath on the cold desert air." Everybody has that potential to be this beautiful flower, but if they're not getting it out there and nobody's seeing it, they're making no contribution to the world.
Right.
So there's potential, but it's difficult, and it takes chiropractors like you and I and everybody else to open their doors and say, come on in. This is what chiropractic is. And that's where people learned back in the day with, philosophy nights. I think you've been on one of our philosophy nights, and it's a way of learning and growing with that too.
Yeah. I know you really put energy towards making sure you can have chiropractic students have access to you and to others so that they can get exposed to what they don't necessarily get exposed to in their educational process. And same thing as I do in the US, every chance I can, right? Because I know that there's no true that school that learns chiropractic to the degree that we wish it would,
No, and I suppose you have to then ask the question, where does it stop? No one's going to come out of chiropractic school being a perfect chiropractor. Even if you had the best school in the world, you still got so much learning to do. And that doesn't happen until you've adjusted thousands of spines. But we have to, as a profession, open our doors and allow them to come in and create this norm where students will come. And we have tens of students observers all the time, to see what's going on. But other practices have to do that and be vulnerable and allow them to ask those questions and come and see.
And tell me about this. Don't you see the students super hungry?
Yes. Crazy hungry, and we don't give them enough, and it's so true, and it's so easy to get caught up on the bitterness in chiropractic. It's so easy to get caught up in the negativities in chiropractic. And I used to be a lot more vocal than I am in chiropractic, and I suppose the reason I've stepped away from it is because it didn't serve. Again, it's not that congruency anymore, is it? If I'm, I'm the vice president of the United Chiropractic Association over here. I was the past student representative for the association too. So I am actively involved, but I refuse to get caught up in these silly games because it's not serving me. It's not serving anybody else. Mm. But I open the door to show the students where they need to go. Mm-hmm. But I do this amazing talk, and it's called Be Selfish. And people assume being selfish is a negative thing to do. I would contend that Mother Teresa is one of the most selfish people who ever lived, because she only taught her faith. She never attended an anti-rally. She spent 10 years doing no media interviews. She did life her way, but in doing life her way, she actually contributed so much. Right. So don't get caught up in the hysteria of it. Decide to do your way. Do chiropractic. That is my only caveat on it. But do chiropractic your way. And that's not going to be the way you're going to do it for the rest of your life. It's going to be something that you learn and change. But that's my main focus.
And there's a very important point. Focus. What part does focus play with congruency?
Great. They're really great. So focus, I would put focus, I'd move focus into present time consciousness. I'd probably expand it into that. I'd get some more clarity on what focus is. So present time consciousness, being aware of the moment. I was having this exact conversation with another client earlier, and it's really interesting, especially when we're young and we're hungry. We just want to get somewhere. We just want to achieve something and do something. And we don't focus on the actual moment. There's a great, if you ever come across Ed Milet, and Ed Milet says something, he says, blissful dissatisfaction. So you're blissful in the moment, but dissatisfied is where you are. So I'm sure you want to have a bigger impact in this world, and you're constantly trying to chase that bigger impact. But you're also blissful in the moment that you enjoy it. So focus to me is being present, being in that moment, and really understanding what you're trying to achieve at that time. So if you're going to set up on somebody, if you're going to adjust somebody, you have to connect with them. You have to remove any interference. I'd say to create a masterful adjustment, you have to be in a heart space. And you can't possibly be in a heart space if you're distracted and not in the moment. And even, I can't remember which book it is, but BJ even talks about it. And he talks about the superconscious. He talks about the superconscious as opposed to the subconscious. So we bastardize our mind and we call it the subconscious, and we think it's inferior to our conscious mind. Whereas BJ would refer to the subconscious as the superconscious. It is above, it is creative. And the best way to get into the superconscious is with morning routines. So something I teach the law enforcement, the police, the fire service, is a morning routine. And this morning routine is about becoming focused, congruent to who you actually are. And the way that works is if you wake up in the morning, you go from your sleep state to your awake state. And as you go through that, you transition through what's called alpha and theta brainwave states. Now, these are brainwave states where we're very open, we're very suggestive to everything around us. Now, most of us will wake up in the morning and go, Wednesday. And you've got a negative thought in your mind straight away into a mind that is susceptible in its theta state. Now, you might be a jolly person like yourself. You might jump up, you hallelujah at the window, you run downstairs, you pick up your phone, you scroll through social media, or you look at the news, and again, you've got a negative stimulus coming in. So you've now lost focus because you're reacting to the world. You're not presently conscious because you're thinking about something that's happening elsewhere at the time of the day when your brainwaves are in theta, so you're so suggestible to it. And the only way to change that is to spend that first time in the morning being in absolute quiet or solidarity or with self for about 20 minutes as you move through those brainwave states. This is where you can journal, this is where you can write, this is where you can read, but this is where you're suggestible. And listen to the thought that comes. And BJ would talk about that thought that comes as the superconscious. That is the thought flash that he would talk about, the thing that moves us forwards. So I find the best way to focus and figure out who we really are is to start right back at that morning routine. Spend time in the first 20 minutes in the morning as you're moving through theta, alpha and theta states, to be present, to be conscious, to understand what that is, so that when you're then in the workplace and when you're there at your tables and when you're adjusting, you can get into that state much easier and much calmer. But focus is essential for practice. I would call it present time consciousness.
I love it, and I'm a big proponent. I teach people all the time what they do first thing in the morning and the last thing they do before they go to sleep have a big impact and a big area of congruence and focus. Let's go a little bit deeper with that, because I think it'll be very helpful for our listeners. Share more about what does your morning routine look like?
Great. So morning routine, I would do what I teach and what I do, probably two separate things, but the main three things I think you should get in a morning routine is hydration, movement, visualization, affirmations. So, and those three need to come in the first 20 to 40 minutes because of those brainwave state changes. They have to happen in that time. If you're trying to do affirmations outside of that time, you're going to find it extremely difficult because your brain is not suggestible to the affirmation. You can do it at night when you dip back down through those alpha and theta states, but you're more likely to fall asleep and lose your train of thought. So the first thing I would do would be get up. And at the moment, like I said to you before the call, I'm in a double down phase. I am going hard at the moment. So it's a 4 a.m. wake up. It is hydration first. So, your brain can work about 20% better when it's hydrated. So it's hydration first, movement second. So if I'm trying not to wake everybody else up in the house, it's literally just some air squats and some press ups and some movements in the living room. Then it is, I write my journals, I write my affirmations, and they all start the same. They start, today is a great day. I'm healthy, happy, full of abundant life. Then I just let it flow, whatever thoughts come to my mind. And I always finish with today is not repeated tomorrow. And that sets my intention for the day. And then I get into doing what I'm going to do. So that's the start. It would normally then lead into a bigger exercise pattern or jump on calls or finish off some work. That's my morning routine.
You're like me. early bed, early to rise, right?
Look like an appetizer.
Exactly. I set that alarm for 4 every day. So yeah.
But it's a beautiful hour because like
Oh,
advantage.
It's sacred.
Yeah. And if people struggle with it, I just say to them, just tip yourself into the hour before you get up first. So if you're like a 7 o'clock get up at 10 to 7. You're now up in the 6 o'clock hour.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a little advantage over everybody else who got up in the 6 o'clock. What did Warren Buffett said? He said, be cautious when everybody else is being greedy and be greedy when everybody else is being cautious. And I love that because it essentially just do the opposite to everybody else and you'll succeed. And chiropractic is the opposite to everything else out there. We can do nothing but succeed. I mean, if you're looking at where the world is going to go now in terms of the next big thing, I think, is going to be longevity. I think, iPhones and technology is gone, but I think the next big thing that's coming along is longevity. How can we live longer?
Mm-hmm.
And there's tech coming with that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we have the key on the other side of it. So we have the key to do that naturally. And I think chiropractic is about to hit a massive wave that it can ride.
Right. And so this is another thing that maybe hitting on, because people have so many definitions of success, right? They look at so many things. It's, man, I'm not successful if I don't see 100 people a day or whatever it is. Or I'm not successful if I don't collect this amount, whatever amount it is per week or per month or per year. Or I'm not successful if I don't spend, a tremendous amount every waking moment with my kids, right? And where do you see someone having success?
Right. To me, success is really fulfillment. And I think social media, I'm bad at it as well. Like I put on my social media with great stuff I'm doing, like find great class all around the world, speaking to big audiences. But people don't see the stuff behind, like the 4 a.m. wake ups, working at 5 in the morning. Like, to me, success is fulfillment. Like, so the number that hits me every time I say it is 30,000. The reason 30,000 hits me every time is because that's the average number of days we have on this planet. That's 82 times 365, 30,000. So that thought to me is, and that's why I write at the end of my morning routine, today is not repeated tomorrow. Because it's literally not. And to me, success would be at the end of the day say, well, did I actually achieve something today? Not did I go for broke? Did I bust my balls, for a better expression? Did I achieve something?
Right.
And for me, that is success. Achieving something each day. Learn today like you will live forever. Live today like you will die tomorrow. Blissful dissatisfaction, being present in the moment, enjoying every moment that you have, but always striving for a bigger purpose. For me, is success. Now, a bigger purpose is a jet, like me. That's okay. If that bigger purpose is more time with the family, then that's okay. But to me, that would be my definition of success.
Yeah. And as you experience more of life, your hair gets a little grayer. Maybe not yours yet.
The beard's going.
Beard gets a little longer. You realize how important all that is. And you try to tell others that, maybe you don't need to hustle the way you are so that you get some more presence in some areas.
And it's hard to hear that. And I have that conversation with people a lot. And we've all been through that. And I suppose it's part of just developing is going through that, learning that process. But if we can learn that process quicker, then we do obviously get more fulfillment in the long run.
Right.
You're right. And it comes back to the whole thing, like you're never going to reach a goal. Like, you're never going to be that, you know, if you get 300 a week, if you get 600 a week, if you hit 1,000 a week, like, you know, are you happier at 1,000 than you are at 999? You know, what is it that you're striving for? And it's normally because we're trying to prove a point to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And we come back to the introspection as to what do you want to achieve with your limited time here on this beautiful planet.
And it also, what are the rules that you create that no one else probably creates? It's your rules that you allow yourself to be happy.
What do I do to allow myself to be happy?
No, I'm saying this is what people do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's your
choice.
to allow themselves to be happy, and versus this is, you know, well, I'm not happy if I saw 340 instead of 350.
Yeah, exactly. And it's comparison. We're always comparing ourselves to other people. And the only person you should compare yourself to is you. And for me, that is, get to the end of the day, have I achieved something this day? And if I lie on my pillow and I say to myself, I achieved something this day, and I honestly can say, no, I haven't. Rarely happens, but what I would then do is I would just pick up a book and learn something. And at least achieve something in that.
Yeah. Outstanding. So, you know, with all of this, I'll tell you one thing I saw. There's actually a screensaver you can get. Not screensaver. There's a one of those things where you open up a tab and it controls what you see in Google, and it actually has a countdown. It tells you how many days you have left.
Yeah.
I forgot what it's called.
That totally messed with my mind about a year ago. That I would probably see my mum 14 more times. You know, and this comes back down to that present time consciousness.
Right.
You know, say I see her 2 times a year. You take the average lifespan, and she's probably got 7 years. It's 14 more time. Whereas if we sat back and just coasted through life, we go, I got another 7 years. You got 14 occasions.
Right.
And that's where present time consciousness is so important, where that occasion is a day, a coffee, a lunch. Like, be in that moment, because nothing else really exists apart from the moment you're in right now. So these numbers are great, and sometimes it can scare you, but if you learn how to flip that into purpose and drive, then they can be so powerful.
Right. Well, and the only moment you're really guaranteed is the one you're in.
100%.
Yeah. And you realize also how small we really are in the vastness of the universe, and what makes such things so important. And really, they're much smaller than we realize.
Yeah. And that, you know, I remember my dad saying to me years ago, so boy, he said, no matter what the issue is right now, you'll look back on it in a couple of weeks and wonder why you got so upset and frustrated in the first place.
Right.
And to hear that in the moment is so annoying. But I've been sick this year. You've been through things as well, and that really does bring about that realization, doesn't it? Like, it really wakes that stuff up to you.
Yep.
Everything happens for you, not to you, and it's a great learning experience.
Yep, you prioritize things differently, for sure. So, hey, I'd like to ask you this. If people, first, is there one more thing, any last thing you'd like to say to our audience?
I'd like to say keep listening to these podcasts if you don't already, because they're great, and I personally got a lot from them, so thank you, Daniel. I really appreciate that. And I would say just take some time this week to be still, be quiet, try and listen to the superconscious and figure out to yourself, are you really being you? Are you showing up as you? And are you enjoying every moment that you live it?
And then the second thing I'd like to ask is, how do people get more Tom?
Tom is omnipresent and omnipotent. He's always there. The best way to get hold of me is Facebook, Thomas Waller DC. You can also look at my page, which is Dr. Tom Finding You. Both of those are on Facebook. The Finding You program is what I've designed to help people really understand who they are, from one-on-one coaching through to retreat weekends. We run those. And then you're pretty active on Instagram as well. Dr. Tom, DC 33.
And do you still do the 2 minutes with Tom?
And the 2 minutes with Tom and this is really interesting. I'm glad because you posted that a while ago and people can go look on my YouTube. I have not deleted anything from my previous YouTube. Here's the evolution of self. If you look at my original 2 minutes with Tom, I am trying to be something that I'm not. And that was the Tom that led to me being sick. And this is what I'm trying to show people and take people through. So I'm glad you posted that because it highlights more what I've achieved. I do most of my regular posting on Instagram now with a little bit going on YouTube.
Good. Well, I'm a big fan, and the people that are listening to this or watching it or however you connect with this in one of the many channels that they can connect with it. I'm a big fan of Tom. I'd like you to be too. So, connect with him so you can get more Tom, and also so you can help, focus on that art of fulfillment. You only get, as far as we know, one go around. So you want to make it the best you can. So thank you for joining us today, Tom, and thank you for joining us on the podcast. If you enjoy these, hit subscribe. Use your time wisely and get more Mile High Tech, whether it be on Stitcher or YouTube or whatever it is whatever way you listen to this, or on iTunes. And keep changing spines and lives and minds in chiropractic. And to be able to do that, you're the most important part of that. So you have to be at your best to be able to impact more people's lives. So thank you there, Dr. Tom. And I look forward to running across paths with you in the UK sometime soon.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Really enjoyed that.